Yeah, sorry about 9:06. I was typing. Welcome to Wall Pass Wednesday here at Soccer's Morning Show. John here, you there, Maddie Cruz on the ones and twos. And we'll get into the high school games of the week. That started off last night. Have to do things a little differently for last night and for Friday. We're releasing them to social media channels, and then the match will be archived over at soccerdownhere.net. So if you miss it, you can catch it later. After the matches are over, we post them, and then they're flipped to the network. So that's how it's going to be for the matches last night. Matches with Peachtree Ridge getting the double against Parkview, winning on the boys and the girls side. Thanks to, once again, our friends at Kaiser Permanente. Thanks to our friends at Subaru of Gwinnett. And thanks to our friends at the Reverb Hotel by Hard Rock in Atlanta, across the street from Mercedes-Benz, for sponsoring us all season long when it comes to the high school game and everything that we do here at SDH. So, John, hear you there. Morning, Harry, and morning, Dell. It's a running joke, Jarrett. It really is. And we now know, as we start things off with opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code for those of you who are watching across the network this morning, either on YouTube, on Twitch, or on the 280-character app. Use the code SoccerDownHere15 to get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into youth games and youth initiatives that they've earmarked. Cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Duncan McGuire down here has taken a turn, shall we say. We now know why the deal fell through more than once. Apparently, and this is some classy stuff here. Initially, they said all the necessary paperwork had been completed prior to 10 p.m. on Thursday, February 1. However, due to an administrative error, the forms were not processed in the prescribed times. We mentioned that they were appealing and that Duncan McGuire is going to be staying there while everything is going to be sorted out. But apparently, this was something that, as our buddy Tommy Scoops, Tom Bogert, has done the deep dive into all of this. So here's apparently how this laid out. Each side's agreeing on an initial fee, just under $4 million U.S. Add-ons could see the deal go up to $6 million. Basically, it was $4 plus $2.5 million. Orlando gets a sell-on clause. They authorize McGuire to leave from Cancun. So he's going from Cancun to Blackburn. That in and of itself is a bit of a trip. Blackburn booked and paid for the flight, took off. Venky's calls chief exec Steve Waggett, director of football Greg Broughton, and coach Yondal Thomason, saying that there was no money to do the deal. Broughton then calls Luis Muzzi and the rest of the folks in Orlando just as he was nearing New York City. So McGuire had 30 hours until the transfer window closed, so he rushes to get the flight to Manchester. Muzzi said that the club would welcome him back, obviously. Orlando tried to contact McGuire directly to tell him to come back to Cancun, but he couldn't be it was unreachable. If he'd returned to preseason camp, there was no way he'd get to England in time for a move. If he didn't get on the flight to Manchester, it wasn't happening. So he lands in England Wednesday evening, 24 hours before the window closes. Sheffield Wednesday had reopened talks because of Blackburn not being able to have the money. Several other championship clubs had made an interest in making a deal happen. Plymouth Argyle and Ipswich. Our friend Kate Riley would have been happy about that. Sheffield Wednesday and Blackburn only the serious bidders. It was assumed Sheffield Wednesday was the most likely destination, so he settled into a Sheffield hotel, Holland Spa, spotted by a reporter 13 hours before the window closed. Deal wasn't final. So Duncan McGuire's hanging out. And now, for the 38th time seemingly in our discussions and in history, our Venky's folks, who are kind of like either Tyson's or Purdue when it comes to British chicken, they don't know if they can keep funding Blackburn. Last week, Blackburn issued a statement insisting legal proceedings in India will not impact the day-to-day funding of the club in any way. So Blackburn struggling to complete deals. Looked like that they were going to be bringing folks in. Struggling to complete things. Orlando City wasn't thrilled to learn Blackburn was trying to hijack the deal from Sheffield Wednesday. The Athletic reported on Thursday that they were finalizing a deal to sign Bracalo. Blackburn ultimately signed a center back on loan on decision day. So Sheffield is waiting to do a deal with Duncan Maguire. Blackburn, after some haggling, agreed to pay a loan fee, $700,000, purchase option near $7,000. Purchase also included another $2.5, on again, off again, back on again. Still wasn't done. Sheffield Wednesday was in the picture still. And then Luis Muzi ultimately accepts Blackburn's offer. 5 hours before the window closes, Blackburn reimburses folks for the cab, offer the contract, 100 minutes to go before the deadline. Maguire was Blackburn's newest player, because remember the video where he's dunking the soccer ball into the kiddie hoop. Slam dunk, remember DUNC? Following day, it emerged that something wasn't right. The head coach was blocked from speaking at Blackburn's pre-match presser. Local media encouraged to speak to other new signings, Kyle McFadzean and Billy Comecchio. Thomas and Maguire not made available for interview. Not allowed to speak on it. They remained silent on the deal. And then it was revealed that he was in limbo because of the administrative error. Numerous documents signed, uploaded. It was there on the system but not submitted. So basically, this comes down to a paperwork error. The club thought they clicked submit paperwork, but they only hit the save button. When they realized that they hadn't submitted the paperwork, the window was closed. What in the blue hell, Jarrett?
None of this happens if we do things the old school way, like we do in college football with the NIL, where you just fax it in.
Fax it in!
Just get a fax machine. You gotta have one around somewhere. Someone's got a fax machine. Someone get a fax machine up. Fax it in. Don't execute everyone's college nightmare of you hit save instead of submit. And then it's just sitting on your computer, nice and safe and cozy. Meanwhile, you get a big fat 0 for that paper you were supposed to turn in. Somebody literally just made the college mistake, except instead of like getting a 0 in an exam, they might have gotten fired.
And I've just, literally, the Duncan Maguire down here has turned into its own thing.
I'm happy for him in the sense that it sounds like he'd be like that Orlando's like, hey man, yeah, if it doesn't work out, come on back. Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad he won't be stuck in like a weird limbo kind of thing where they were trying to get him out the door and it already kind of moved on and he would just be kind of lame duck for half a year. It sounds like Blackburn wants to.
They want to.
If they can't get it done now, they want to do a pre-deal for the summer.
Right. You have the appeal, and it's supposed to be heard tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, here come the clowns.
Yes.
We'll see how it goes, but hopefully he'll be able to still, get some minutes in Orlando, do his thing. Usually, at least it's not like going to cripple a half a year of this kid's career. Because somebody at Blackburn doesn't know the difference between save and submit. It's just embarrassing. Ultimately, again, just fax it in.
Yes.
Go back to the fact. Like we kept fax machines around for way too long in this country, primarily so college athletes could fax in their NILs.
Mm-hmm.
Their LOIs. Sorry.
Yeah.
Bring that back. My favorite one, by the way, was the story. I can't remember what school it was. I think it was one of the South Carolina schools where, like, the dude called the coach and was like, hey, coach, I'm not going to go to your school. I'm going to sign elsewhere. And the coach is like, I'm sorry to hear that, but I understand. Hey, could you send over your letter anyway? I just want to keep it fresh. And he did, and the coach, like, turned it in. And so, like, the kid was and like that one got turned in first, so the kid was required to go there.
Uh-huh.
And just like, I don't know how you don't run the coach down with a car on the first day of practice, at least with a go kart. I don't know how you don't fire the coach when that happens.
Oh my God.
But we kept fax machines around for way too long just for that. Y'all just keep fax machines around for this.
Mm-hmm.
It's dumb. There's no reason to do it. Like, you could also like keep a dot matrix printer around. You just go full bore with it.
Yeah.
But it's everything about this is so stupid and beautiful, and everyone should be embarrassed by the existence of this entire conversation.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Should.
But won't.
Yes.
And yeah, good for Duncan McGuire that like this isn't going to screw up his like immediate future in terms of like he's not going to like have to like sit out. Like, yeah, he'll go back to Orlando, get on a plane, go back to preseason training, play in the first half of the season, then go in the midseason if it gets turned down. Which I'm wondering if it gets turned down on the grounds of just pure stupidity.
Yes.
Of like, no, we're not going to approve your transfer. Because you don't know how to read or hit a button correctly, or somebody in your office doesn't know how to use a computer.
Oh, you're not allowed. You stay away from the equipment. Legitimately.
User error is not a reason to make an exception. I
No.
agree. Because like at what point, like, what are you? I guess you would screenshot and show them like, hey, we had it ready to turn in time. Jim Bob here just hit the wrong button.
Yeah,
Jim
literally.
Bob's not really
Here's
traditional English
the
name,
paper. Here's the paper, and here's the timestamp. Literally, you look at the top. Here's the timestamp. Oh my Lord!
And to Emilio's point, like Blackburn's money situation ain't even like convincing.
No.
Which shout out to Orlando for putting a sell on this, because I would too. Because like, hey, I'm gonna get a sell on clause. Why? He's not gonna stay at Blackburn. Why? Because he's good. Well, yes, he is, but Blackburn might also have to sell him because they're going to have to feed the pigeons in the parking lot.
Yes.
And they don't have the coin for that.
Mm-hmm.
And they might have to sell him. So good on you, Orlando, for like getting a sell on with it. Great job. I give you your flowers. God bless you, Duncan McGuire. I feel bad for you. All right.
Yes.
That's all I have time for is just to be mad about Blackburn.
There you go. Be mad about Blackburn. We'll see you tomorrow. All right. So Jarrett is off and running this morning. And good morning, everybody. That's opening kickoff. We'll go through the rundown here in a sec. That's opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's your QR code for those of you who are watching either on the YouTube channel, on Twitch, or on the 280-character app. Don't forget, use the code Soccer Down Here 15 to get 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10% reinvested into youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Housekeeping. Last night was the beginning of the high school football. Not wrong. High school soccer season here with the Tuesday night throwdown. Maddie got a bit of a homecoming, so let me bring Maddie in here real quick to talk about it. So, Maddie, you got to go back and you got to bring the Larison family embossed microphone back to the press box at the Big Orange Jungle.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. My pops was the voice of Panther soccer until 2003. And then he was on it when both of my uncles played there. One of my uncles was a part of the team that won back-to-back state championships in 1997 and 1998. Pretty cool. It was pretty cool getting to bring that up there. I sent it to my my family in our little group chat, and they all were like, "That's so cool! Like, that's awesome!" So it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun getting to kind of be up in that same area where he would have been. So it's pretty cool.
Yep. So girls win in overtime 3-2 on a scrum. 28 seconds into the second overtime, there were literally 5 players around the ball, and it took like almost the Zapruder film to figure out who scored. And it's they're giving credit to Isabel Stolis for Peachtree Ridge in the 3-2 win. And then the boys, Peachtree Ridge won against a shorthanded Parkview side. It was 4-2 there. Standard rivalry in Gwinnett County, very demure, very calm, nothing happening. You had a PK that was a Panenka. You had some shushing going on from the Peachtree Ridge players to the home crowd. So once again, another average night in Gwinnett County soccer. We'll be back at it again on Friday with Roswell at River Ridge. And that'll be once again 5:30, 7:30. And you had the chance to catch up with the Roswell girls coach already, just to kind of get acquainted with things.
I did. It was a really good conversation. If you want to check it out, this is a shameless plug. Go check out Soccer is in Session. It is on the network. It was a really good conversation I had with her. We just talked a lot about, her last season, her first season with the team, and how they kind of got that state championship, and kind of what they expect to do this season, and what she expects from her players. And we also talked a little bit about women's sports and how well it's developed throughout the entire U.S.
Yep, looking forward to that conversation. Looking forward to seeing Roswell and River Ridge on Friday. And obviously, since you're here for the first hour, we're going to catch up with you before you go, right?
Absolutely. Well, I'm actually here for the whole time.
Oh, you're here for the whole time. What happened to the doctor's appointment?
So I had to move it, unfortunately. It's now Friday.
Okay. All right. So it's been moved to Friday, and so you're going to go straight from the doctor to River Ridge. I see how this works. Okay.
Oh yeah, I have to make my stops.
Yes, and points in between. All right. So we'll catch up with you as the show goes along. Be safe. We'll catch up in a bit.
Will do.
All right. Maddie Cruz on the ones and twos this morning. All right. So let's get into your thoughts. Here's the rundown for the morning. We've got some more. Obviously, we've got some other housekeeping that we've got to take care of with our friends from the Marshall Islands. We'll show you that coming up in just a little bit. But we'll start at the top of the order and go with Morning Harry, Morning Dell. Yeah, Tom, nothing to talk about. I know that we probably are going to be getting into the proposed streaming venture among ESPN, Fox, and Warner Brothers Discovery. We'll get into that discussion. Andrew Marchand had a piece at The Athletic, his premier piece for The Athletic, now that he's moved over from the New York Post. So there's that this morning. We have Messi and friends with yet another color your own adventure. And the world did not see it, so we kind of had to follow along virtually and figure out what the heck was going on with Messi and friends in Vissel Kobe. And we'll see. We'll walk through that as they leave. The 100,000-mile excursion continues, but now they're heading back to Fort Lauderdale to take on Newell's. The extra-continental section of the adventure is now over as they're working their way back from Vissel Kobe, and that particular match that was brought to them by Iniesta's promotion group, so you knew that match had to happen. But we'll get into Messi and friends coming up, obviously, in just a little bit. Harry saying good morning in a bunch of different formats. Morning, Dell. Yes, Dell. Must hit submit. Must hit submit. Please, God, hit submit. And Parge, you're not wrong. All this Duncan talk has you feeling like Bill Murray. Groundhog on the steering wheel, go over the and literally this is almost the one where the groundhog is there. He's in front of Bill Murray on the steering wheel, and they just go over the cliff. That's literally where we are with all this madness right now. So literally going over the cliff on Groundhog Day. And I feel like we probably should get like Andy McDowell or something to discuss things. So once again, nothing new, but yeah. Tom, it does smack of the burofax. Yeah, well, maybe, and this is something I hadn't considered. I had not considered that maybe Blackburn has a burofax. Just thinking. I'm just thinking out loud. Maybe Blackburn is that far back that that Venky's can't afford a traditional fax machine, so it's a burofax. Dell, whoever submitted this paperwork, never did a college application. And yeah, we did mention pars with user error, not a reason to make an exception. Emilio, I wouldn't want to go to Blackburn. Money situation would concern me. I'd like to get paid. Yeah. And like I said, Blackburn, they might be having tax issues back home. I mean, it's been a mess since their tenure of Blackburn in the Premier League. And it's always seemed to have been almost a robbing Peter to pay Paul situation, kind of sliding things one way to get something done with the other. They have been one of the notoriously poorer clubs in just trying to figure out, okay, can we slide something over? Can we do this? Can we do this? How about a loan? How about a loan deal? Those kinds of things. So Blackburn being where they are this close to the relegation zone, I think we mentioned yesterday that they were 5 points from the drop in the championship. They're that close to the drop in the championship. So Like Jarrett said, glad that Orlando put a sell on with it. Because you know that sooner rather than later, it would not surprise me, especially if Blackburn were relegated, that they would flip Duncan McGuire and Orlando gets a good piece of business. Niall, yes, we will definitely be getting into this. Looks like Miami, Messi and friends look like they could be trouble with the amount of injuries. Wonder why. No clue. We'll get into that coming up. Dell, now every time that person submits paperwork, he's going to have 8 different bosses coming by to make sure that he did it, or just make sure that 8 different bosses smash the button. It's like, did you send it? Yes, I think I did. Think, don't think, do, and you smash it again. So that's what you're staring at now. I wouldn't go. I legitimately would not. Michael Head, very similar to the Hakeem Ziyech situation last year. Chelsea sent the paperwork. Fax, a minute late. Transfer declined. Declined. Not happening. But Blackburn, apparently, they have their heart set on Duncan McGuire to where they've gone to the appeal. We'll hear the appeal tomorrow, so we'll see what happens. Yes, part of the subplot, Dale and Niall, with what happened with Messi and friends. Busquets got stomped on, and it was not pretty. Video's out there, and it was right on the inside of the ankle, I think, if I remember correctly. And then Michael Head with Ziyech came after they did not have the form signed. Niall, maybe Miami's going to regret doing this big of a global tour. I don't know. Did you see, and I think this was Paul Tenorio, the pictures that were, but it might have been Orlovsky. Did you see the pictures to the gear tent? Did you see? Did you see the pictures to the gear tent? Out the back, out the door, and 100 deep. That's part of this, as we all know. It's about the marketing elements attached to it. And if you can get Messi and friends pink gear with the herons on them worldwide, that's what David Beckham and the Moss brothers are staring at. You're looking at worldwide exposure for the pink heron. So, I don't know. Results on the field definitely ain't nowhere close to anything that they would have anticipated. But, hey, you're making it back in merchandise. You're making it back in exposure. I'd love to know what the Q rating is for Messi and friends right now. And I'd love to know how much merch they sold, how much exposure. And I know that there are equations that do this, and there are outfits that measure how much exposure on television is worth financially. They do it in NASCAR a lot, where you'll see cars running around a track, and you'll see some of the back markers, and you'll wonder why the back markers who look like modifieds are still out there. It's because of the sponsors on the cars. And still, you could be 25 laps down and you finish your race and you're still getting the sponsor's name out there. There are folks that actually do monetize and quantify how many minutes you're exposed, that your sponsors are exposed in these situations, like in NASCAR. How much time were the promotional elements up there? How much time were the advertising sponsors and the advertising elements up outside of commercial time? This is like literally in the game itself. So if you can quantify the exposure of Messi and friends and the logo and all these kinds of things with this 100,000-mile, choose your own adventure, then it's gonna be worth it to you in marketing and merchandising and all those other kinds of things, and exposure for the club. So if somebody can monetize, if somebody can figure out how this is monetized, X number of minutes and exposure and media in all these markets and all these different countries and what it means and all these kinds of things, I think the Moss brothers will take the trade, at least right now, because you're still in a position where you can recover physically, and we'll see what happens there. But yeah, we'll get into Messi and friends coming up in just a little bit. Dell wonders if the players are happy with it or if they're so over it and hate each other. Could you imagine being on the same plane with somebody? And all right, so when did this tour start? When did this when did this tour start with Messi and friends? So if I could spell Inter Miami CF. Let's see, when did this tour actually start? How much time on an airplane did these folks spend with one another for the 100,000-mile global extravaganza? So let's take a peek. Looking at the schedule. So starting, let's say January 17, because remember, they started off playing the El Salvadoran B national team. Basically, it was like when they went to Japan or to Hong Kong and played a Hong Kong team. It was a Hong Kong team. It was not like the Hong Kong team or anything like that. A Hong Kong team. So they play El Salvador B on the 19th. Then they go to the Cotton Bowl, get rained on, and in front of 12 people, play FC Dallas. Then they have basically a week to travel to Riyadh to take on Al Hilal and Al Nasser. And literally in the schedule on the website for Messi and friends through Major League Soccer, it is listed as Hong Kong team at Hong Kong Stadium. And then they played Vissel Kobe at 5 o'clock this morning. We'll get into that coming up in just a little bit. But you are on the road from, say, the 17th of January, and maybe it takes 2 days to get home. So depending on travel, stops, those kinds of things. So if you travel, you're probably traveling from Tokyo to Seattle, and you're probably flying from Seattle to Miami. You get home early, maybe early tomorrow morning, East Coast time. So let's say the 8th of February. You're on a plane from, say, January 17 to February 8 with the same group of people. 30 days has September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31. So 14, 22 days. It is 3 weeks with the same group of people. Same planes, same buses, same hotels. Now, of course, there probably is some separation. It's like Messi gets a floor, Busquets gets a big suite, Alba gets a big suite, Luis Suarez might get a floor. But 3 weeks, like 109,000 miles. I think Maddie had done the math on this, like 109,000 miles traveled from here to El Salvador, to Dallas, to Saudi Arabia, to Hong Kong, to Tokyo, Japan, Vissel Kobe, and back. 3 weeks. One of two things are going to happen. One of two things are going to happen here. They're really going to like each other, or they're going to be at each other's throats, and they won't even be at the start of the season. They won't even be at the start of the season. It'll be like this. And they've got the game on a week from tomorrow against Newell's as the last game in this exhibition season of theirs, where it's 7 matches in 32 days, or, well, technically 20, 28, 26. 7 matches, 26 days, 32 if you count travel. And they're either going to really like each other, or they're going to say, leave me the ish alone. I don't want nothing to do with it. Nothing. Y'all can go on and do your thing. I ain't want nothing to do with it. Emilio, question. When you submit an order from, say, QVC, you typically get a confirmation email. Why can't this be set up to receive a confirmation? Then when there's no confirmation, you can check your work. This is obviously going back to Duncan McGuire. You would think maybe that the EFL would be in a place where they could sit there and go, We have received your email about the transaction of insert individual here. Thank you for submitting your transaction and paperwork to EFL. We will get back to you soon. Maybe. Emilio is dropping all his logic because he's the resident antagonist. Yeah, Niall, Messi doesn't seem to be the biggest fan of it with recent comments. He admitted he was gassed. He admitted he was tired. Tired and ready to go home. Lesson learned, maybe? No. We're going to market the ish out of this. And Messi, by the way, did not participate in the penalty kicks. In the penalty kick shootout lost to Vissel Kobe. No goals on the board. No surprise. Busquets gets injured. He got stomped on. No official word on the severity of it, but it looked pretty bad at the time, but apparently he kind of shook it off. There's going to be a big old bruise down by the ankle bone of Sergi Busquets. And Messi wanted nothing to do with the PKs, which by apparently all accounts were pretty brutal. Robert Taylor missed twice. It was bad. It was bad. Emilio sent his college app by snail mail. I did too. Got there in one piece. And I suffered the same fate as Blackburn and Duncan McGuire, come to think of it. I just remembered this. I applied, and it's story time with John. So I applied to a couple of schools. It was Idaho State, Texas El Paso, and I did that as an 8th grader, and they already said I could come in because of my SAT scores. San Diego State, Southern Cal, Florida State, and I wanted to get into UCLA because, half my family was out in Southern California at the time. And so getting the UCLA application in was right there at the deadline. And it's like you remember you wrote the check to the school to sit there, and it's like, okay, I'm applying. Here's the $35 application fee. Literally, it was checks and snail mail. This is how old I am. Checks and snail mail. And I thought I could kind of get it in after the buzzer to UCLA. And so I applied anyway, and it was postmarked like 2 days late because I wasn't so sure if I really wanted to go to UCLA, considering about San Diego State and USC and Florida State and all the others. But I sent it anyway. Literally 2 days postmarked after, they were like, nope, here's your check back, here's your application back, here's your application, here's your application and your check. Not happening. Your postmark didn't make it. It's 2 days. Or it might have been 1 day. But UCLA being UCLA was like, nope. I did not appeal to any kind of collegiate board or anything like that and say, I know it was my fault for some strange reason. Maybe the post office hung on to it too long. It got lost in their mail. Maybe an idea, perhaps. Tried it, didn't work. So I ended up going to Florida State. But yeah, I was right there. I did not make the deadline either in my application for UCLA. Should have probably been a little smarter about it. But who knew? It was a shot. It was a shot. So I've been there, Blackburn. I know exactly what you're going through. Let's end story time with John, at least for today. All right, so let's see what else is on the board. Yeah, energy-wise, yeah, they're gassed. Merchandise sure off the charts. Players are going to be on heavy legs for sure, and you get to sit on a plane for another, 5,000 miles or something? 7,500? Pars, what the world has learned to beat Miami, clog up the midfield, and challenge the defense. Clog them up. Dell, I'm sure they're being pampered, but these Miami players miss their family and their private home space. I mean, legitimately. It's like the second you get home off the bus, You are hoping that either your car will start or that someone will come get you and you get to pour yourself into your own bed or just sit in your recliner in your den and go, leave me alone. Like the guy was it the Dolby commercials when we were growing up, or the tape commercials? I think it was Memorex, where the guy's just sitting in the chair and the speaker is just blowing the same music at him, and he's just kind of sitting there the whole time. That you're looking to vegetate for a day or two. And yes, Tom, we will get into that. The World Cup games in 2026 being held in exceedingly generically named stadia. Michael, yes. Joseph, I don't know. We don't know yet if Joseph is going to play. We still don't know if he's going to play. He made the presentation yesterday where he stood on the mountaintop in Montreal, spoke a little French. Tish, you spoke French. And flashed the CF Montreal jersey. You know, the CF Montreal jersey, that would that'd be kind of, that would be interesting if he made that kind of a turnaround. If it happened that quickly. But once again, remember subplots, people. Subplots. It's what makes the world go round. Do you remember? We'll go into the Wayback Machine here. And then it's not so way back. August 4th, 2021, 2.5 years ago. Do you remember a particular moment in time in Atlanta United history? Do you remember this? Where were you when this happened?
Markham for Jurgen Damm. Delivers. Falls kindly. Marcelino Moreno. And Marcelino Moreno wants a handball and a penalty. As Joseph Martinez will not back down from anybody.
And that's what I'm talking about there. The hand to the throat.
Yep. Cantor makes his way across. Did you see anything in that to warrant a red card? Remember the 4 pillars of video review. Goals, penalties, red cards, and mistaken identity. Martinez slaps away the arm from his neck. Red card. Joseph Martinez, Victor Wanyama, both off the field. Montreal down to 9 men. Atlanta down to 10. And their main man has to exit. And for a match that's seen so much let go, I must say I'm a little bit surprised at that.
Yeah, I am as well. It's interesting. It's an interesting moment to make his stamp on the game, and he apportions it to both teams. Big loss for both sides. Montreal losing their captain in Wanyama, and Joseph Martinez leaving after scoring a great goal. Interesting to see the two of them walking off side by side. But now some more shuffling for Wilfred Nancy and interim manager for Atlanta, Rob Valentino, having to show his car as well now too.
Glad we have a tunnel cam.
Yeah, and after that, if you remember, they almost got into it. They got into it in the tunnel and had to be separated. August 4th, 2021 at Stade Saputo. Atlanta United, Joseph Martinez, and Victor Wanyama. And guess what, kids? They're teammates now. No word on if Joseph is going to play down in Tampa. The game tonight, by the way, will be on Atlanta United's YouTube channel, on the .com and on their social media. It is a 4 o'clock start, by the way. It's a 4 o'clock start this afternoon with Atlanta and CF Montreal. Don't know, like I said, don't know if Joseph will be coming from the mountaintop outside up by Molson Stadium and working his way down to Tampa. I don't know when that video was shot, but don't know if Joseph will be there in Tampa today. Don't know if Joseph will dress today, but you can listen to Jason down in Tampa, 4 o'clock, ATLUTD.com and the social medias, and we'll run highlights tomorrow and get you caught up with what happened there. Back to Miami. 0 announcers should use this preseason and flight demand as an excuse. Absolutely not. The owners scheduled it, and you saw what happened with the players. You got some injuries that you got to work through. You got all those other kinds of things you got to work through. And Michael, you're not wrong. Going to be a lot of load management for the Elders of Miami. Yeah, we've talked about schedule compression. We've talked about multiple competitions. We've talked about Copa America. We've talked about the Olympics, all these different kinds of things. There will be load management, much as what we say with lawyers and cases. There will be billable hours. There will be load management. And yes, PKs for a meaningless match are pretty stupid. They are. Absolutely. Pretty stupid. And it was horrendous, apparently. The display in the PKs was horrendous. HORRENDOUS, horrendous. And Pars, you might be right. I imagine it conveniently syncs up with Atlanta again. Emilio, I remember the standalone mailbox. Del, we use StreamYard. That's what we stream to Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter, and all the other places. We can stream to Facebook, and depending on which package you get, you can sit there and stream to 3 or 4 different devices or social medias and things. We use StreamYard. Very, very effective. Pars, did the club ask Kevin Egan to help naming the jersey? His catchphrase for me has always been "always rising." We'll try and get Kevin on before the season kicks off, and we'll get his thoughts on Atlanta United and a bunch of other folks. So we will discuss that. We'll track Kevin Egan down, see if he can come on. Tuesday seemed to be a pretty safe day for Kevin, but we'll see as we get closer to the beginning of the schedule. So that will be part of that kind of discussion. But yes, so yeah, Messi and friends in Vissel Kobe. For some strange reason, it wasn't on TV. It was not available. And for just some absolutely strange reason, the Revolution was not televised. Goalless draw. Messi was not in the PKs at all. Was not a part of it. Wanted nothing to do with it. So goalless draw for Messi and friends and Vissel Kobe. And how's that? How's your tour going? Yeah, goalless draw in Japan. Let's see if we can. Let's all right. So they beat El Salvador. I think, what was it? A draw with Dallas in the mess in the Cotton Bowl. Lost a shootout to Al Hilal 4-3. Got whacked by Al Nassr 6-0. Beat Hong Kong team. And then goalless draw. It was like 12-7, I think, was the amount of goals against in these 6 matches. 10 of them coming in Saudi Arabia against Al Hilal and Al Nassr. So yeah. So how was your winter vacation? Well, it was 100,000 miles, and we got it handed to us. Busquets injured, keep an eye on that. Messi tired, keep an eye on that. But once again, they'll fly home. They'll probably have 4 or 5 days to recover before Newell's. And you know that Messi and Tata will be heavily involved in that match. And then they've got another 5-6 days before the regular season opener against RSL at DRVP&K. So all of that. So that's what you're staring at with Messi and friends. Congratulations on your 109,000-mile frequent flyer extravaganza. I hope you got miles and points out of the deal, unless you were flying on a private jet. You know, I needs a private jet. If you were flying on a private jet, I hope you got something out of the deal. If you were flying commercial, I hope you got miles and points. That's all I can say. I hope you got miles and points because it could really come in handy. You could double your frequent flyer miles in 1 3-week period by flying 109,000 miles around the planet. Congratulations. Good on you. Once again, remember, Atlanta's in Tampa. Matches today and matches on Saturday. And 4 o'clock this afternoon, CF Montreal at ATLUTD.com. And it is Atlanta United. And then Tampa Bay and Atlanta United, 3 o'clock Saturday afternoon from Al Lang. Jason will be down there for the first one, and I think Mike's joining him for the second one, ATLUTD.com and all the social media channels. Before they go, I think they're coming back from Tampa. They might be going over to IMG, but I think they're coming back. Don't quote me on that. And then they've got a week before, not this Saturday, but next Saturday, the 17th, the closed-door match with Kansas City. It's supposed to be at 11 o'clock in the morning next Saturday, the 17th, in Fort Lauderdale. Not televised, closed doors, the whole schmear. And then that'll do it for the preseason schedule. That it was not 109,000 miles and halfway around the planet. So there's all of that. All right. So so this is Maddie on the ones and twos. No player to stop to talk to the press after the match. I guess they were trying to catch a plane. That's from Orlowitz, Dan Orlowitz. If you don't follow him, Aishiteru Tokyo, Dan Orlowitz. He's a he's a tier 1 source. He works for Japan Times and JT Sports, and he covers the J League and a bunch of stuff in the Far East very, very well. So there's a post on. There's a stream on his social media, and Miami missed their 3rd straight penalty. Messi didn't want to do it, and Dan in all caps, a debauched spectacle, the likes of which we will hopefully never see again. 5 stars. That's what you were staring at. Inter Miami made their first 3, but missed their last 3. And Vissel Kobe won 4-3, but it took 6 rounds to do it. And it looks like Inter Miami and Messi and friends, they just went straight down the tunnel. They were done. And then it was quite some time, and not a single Miami player showed up in the mix zone. You had a lot of kids who were waiting in line for possibility of getting things signed by various folks. And so Dan, about an hour ago is when he posted this. The players all slipped out a back entrance and did their VIP signings. Other than 2 designated players who did TV interviews, nobody stopped to talk to the written press. And this is Dan. He says, very poor by Messi and friends and not a great look from the first MLS team to play in Japan. A few hardcore fans waiting to see the bus leave. One woman came up to me and asked, Messi? I shrugged. And so you can subscribe to his stuff. His new letter, The Hachi, writes about Japanese sports of all kinds, mostly soccer, and you can subscribe at his Substack. So recommended for those who like to know about things in the Far East. Dan does a really good job, and it's really cool to get his perspectives on things. So as a public service, there is Dan's link to Substack. So if you want to join up with and see what Dan wants to write about and everything going on in the Far East, please do. Michael says I can really ape Kevin spot on. It's just from prolonged overexposure and having a good ear. And so, I mean, honestly, probably one of these times we probably should have a flipped conversation where Kevin does an impression of me and I do an impression of Kevin. That's probably what we should do when it comes to a future Kevin Egan visit. But, it's always fun to catch up with Kevin so he can talk about Atlanta United, But no, it's always fun. Kevin is one of the great guys. Looking forward to seeing his work with Apple TV this upcoming season. So Yeah, so it was fun. How was yours? How was your vacation? Well, it wasn't that great. Yeah, Messi and friends, apparently they just got tired and they went to the bus. So good work. A couple of other topics here in hour number 1 to get us moving. I know that Tom had mentioned earlier on about how venues are going to be identified when the world comes to this particular hemisphere in a couple of years' time. And it was written by our buddy Doug Robertson over at the AJC that the Benz will not be referred to by its purchase price, by its purchase name. Instead, FIFA is going to refer to the venue by the moniker Atlanta Stadium. Because if Mercedes-Benz ain't a sponsor, you ain't getting a name. And that's according to folks over at MBS. In the irony of ironies, by the way, FIFA prohibits the use of corporate sponsors in stadium names. Irony of ironies. They prohibit the use of corporate sponsors in stadium names. According to Doug's article, stadium officials said they don't know yet what that prohibition means for any other signage in or on the building, which includes the logo on the retractable roof. Yeah, how are you? All right, so let's think this through for a second. Let's think this through. All right, so you, sir, or madam, you are attached to a stadium that is going to be shown a lot during the World Extravaganza in 2026. 8 matches, plus practices, plus training, plus media opportunities, all that stuff. Considering right now what we see on a daily basis when we go hang out at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, how are you going to cover all that up? It is a 1.6 double extra large advertisement for Mercedes-Benz. It is striped. It is logoed. It is pictures. It is everything. How are you going to cover all that up? You're just going to slap like FIFA logos on everything? Not like the world doesn't going to know that like underneath the FIFA logo, under like the big poofy FIFA logo that they're going to post on top of the Mercedes-Benz Trident, that you won't be able to see the 12, the 4, and the 8 the entire time. And what are you going to do? And legitimately, what are you going to do if the international broadcast partners shoot aerials of the city? Are you going to cover up? How are you going to cover up the spindle on the top of Mercedes-Benz Stadium? How are you going to cover up the Venus flytrap? How are you going to cover up the spin dial? Because the spin dial is the Trident. It's 12, 4, and 8. And you spin it, and it's Mercedes-Benz. How are you going to stop this? Is it going to be closed the entire time? Or if it's open, is that the only time that you can shoot the scenics of the city? Oh, you can't shoot it with the roof closed because it shows the Mercedes-Benz logo. Hey, here's Atlanta Stadium. Hey, what's that logo? Oh, we can't talk about it. Why can't we talk about it? Well, because they're not a sponsor. But it's Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Well, not this month. This month, it's Atlanta Stadium. How are you going to police this? How are you going to police these aerials and all these logos? I mean, Dell and Pars are probably on it. Dell's like cover it with duct tape, and Pars is like World Cup trophy vinyl wrap. But Pars, underneath the vinyl wrap, we're going to see the Trident. We're going to see the 12, the 4, and the 8. We know it's those of us, I guess, on this side of the planet know what's underneath it. We know what's underneath that. You're not fooling us. You're not fooling us with any of that stuff. We know there's a Mercedes-Benz Trident under there. Naming rights deal, by the way, for MBS is for 27 years until 2042. Doug says that the prohibition will not affect She Believes or Copa America. FIFA lists on its website 6 corporate partners. Coca-Cola is listed as a sponsor. Maybe we get Coca-Cola vinyl wrap. And it's going to hold and it's not just Mercedes-Benz. It's not just MBS that's going to fall victim to this. Gillette. Now, let's take this case by case. With Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, how are you going to keep folks from not seeing the big Gillette under the Saturn rocket there in the end zone? AT&T, how are you, Jerry World? How are you going to keep all the AT&T stuff? It's there on the side of the building. It's embedded. Jerry's happy with his seconds for the first time ever. He's happy being a runner-up. We're real happy here in Dallas. Having a semifinal is going to be a good thing. How are you going to cover up all the AT&T-ness? NRG is on the outside in Houston and on the roof. Jihad, Arrowhead might be a little easier. SoFi, are you not going to show? Or it's SoFi. Are you not going to show the fountain and the artificial lake and the SoFi logo out in front of the beauty shot? Hard Rock in Miami. You don't show the corners of the end zones with the upper matrix boards, I guess. But it's on the roof. It's on the roof of the stadium for the overhead. MetLife and the Meadowlands. It's right there in the end zone on the scoreboard. Lincoln Financial's a little easier. The Field of Jeans out in Santa Clara, Levi's, I think it might be in a high shot by the scoreboard. Lumen in Seattle, a little easier. BMO in Toronto, it's outside. So 12 of the 16 stadia in North America are going to be called exceedingly generic names. That's what you're staring at right now. That's what Gianni Infantino and our buddies at FIFA have declared. Atlanta Stadium is the host of 8 matches. Sure it is. Pars, yes. What about all the cars and internal staging areas? They out, or at least they're not going to be on camera. That area by DJ EU or somebody's going to have to be blocking up all that space. That car's going to have to come off that 45-degree angle and be reparked. It's going to have to be put like in the bowels of the building by the loading dock for a month. Pars. It could just come down to TV magic, same way they put stripes on the field for the NFL games, the 1st and 10 lines. Yeah, you could do something like that. And Tom, you are not wrong. The giant branded tarp making people will get some good business. That's what you need to invest in here in the United States over the next 3 years. Because I would anticipate that later this month, you're going to get your visit from FIFA over the women's planetary extravaganza. And it's probably going to be here in 27. So you have to think through 27 for all this stuff. If you know folks who are in the giant branded tarp making business, or if you're thinking about going into business for yourself, that's probably what you need to do. Giant branded tarping. or the giant branding of tarps. That's what you need to get into. Legitimately. Because with 12 of the 16 stadia that are attached to the planetary extravaganza in 26 and 27, that's what you got to do. Tom with a follow-up. Yes. Okay, can you print FIFA on a giant tarp? Why, yes, we can. Can you make it thick enough to where folks can't see corporate logos underneath? Why, yes, we can. That's the business you need to get in for the next couple of years. The giant branding of tarps. Oh, my God. Mm-hmm. Atlanta Stadium. Try and cover up all that Mercedes-Benz stuff. I dare you. I can't. Now part of me, and I'm sure that now that my interest and your interest has been piqued in all of this, now I can't wait to get to this point to see how it's all covered up. Speed is a matter of money. How fast can you afford to go? I want to see now that I have my interest piqued, I want to see how they do this. I can't wait. I cannot wait to see how all this is laid out now. I legitimately can't. I cannot wait. It is going to be an absolute extravaganza. And as we are here also on the original National Signing Day, may your college football program here in Stage 2 fill in the holes that they could not get into in Stage 1. News out of Nashville. Nashville has signed Isaiah Jones, the second homegrown signing. 17-year-old midfielder has been a member of the academy team, the Gold Mine, since the U15s. So congratulations to Nashville for their second homegrown signing. So that's a piece of news this morning as we go. So obviously we've got a couple of other things to get into this morning, and whatever is also on your mind this morning as well. Well, you see, and Michael, this is an excellent point. I would love to see it. You know, initially when I thought of Atlanta Stadium, I was like, they're going to name it Atlanta Fulton County. Michael Head's like, as a complete throwback, it should be Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. I'd love that kind of retro. And then maybe the giant tarp making people could sit there to the outside of Mercedes-Benz and just make it look like old Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. Cover over all the Mercedes cars. And you just have the massive tarp over all of the Mercedes material, and it looks like old Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. Tom, you're not wrong. Tom says, so when the season starts, we need to compile pics of every place in Mercedes-Benz Stadium where the name and logo is visible and see just how many there are. So here's the field trip assignment. When the season starts, go to your seat. If you're in supporters section or if you have like seats, take a picture from where you are for the soccer configuration, or and maybe do a 360 or something like that. See how many times that FIFA, that our friends at FIFA are going to get in trouble over all this. And how much of a challenge it's going to be inside the stadium. And then this is the other part. You know, we do kind of joke about giant tarp making people. The infrastructure inside the stadia for the 12 of the 16 venues that are going to have to sit there and be genericed out for the planetary extravaganza, this is going to be a very challenging thing for the front offices and the administrations of all of these stadia to try to figure out. Thankfully, they do have a bit of a runway with it. You know, they do have, a 2+ year runway. Some folks are focusing on grass, but the others are going to have to figure out each and every location that, okay, there's a logo, there's a trident, there's a trident. People can't see this, can't see this, can't see this. But the wrapping on the outside of the building in each of these venues, the roofs, and especially the Venus flytrap up top at Mercedes-Benz, And so it will be a challenge. It'll be a challenge for the infrastructure. I mean, they're concerned about what can be visible on TV, right? And so literally they're going to be looking at all the camera angles. And like I said, when you have, that they always want to have that shot of downtown insert city here with the stadium. Atlanta is going to be a challenge because of the Venus flytrap, because that logo, that trident's right there on the spin dial, on that Tascam fader. That logo's right there. Does the host broadcaster just ignore it for 3 weeks or a month? Low left-hand corner of your picture is Atlanta Stadium. Biggest unsold secret known to mankind. But inside, legitimately, it's going to be a challenge. Dylan Butler normally joining us in this time slot. He is with MLSsoccer.com. They got a lot of stuff going on this morning. They're short-staffed, and so he's very, very busy this morning. So he'll be back with us next week. So, yeah, all of the exceedingly generic names that are on the board and absolutely fantastic. So it is going to be an interesting couple of years in trying to figure out how everything gets taken to the wayside. Hey, this stadium and its corporate name, that doesn't exist for a month. I am now intrigued with sightlines and covering up of sponsor elements. Because we all know here in Atlanta what it looks like with MBS. We all know. It's going to be the biggest untold, oh my God, visual during this entire tournament in each of these venues. And now my interest is so piqued. I want to see how they cover it all up. With Atlanta going on this afternoon, what are you guys looking for with this match against CF Montreal? What are you looking for? I know that we've been very, very high on the younger players, Javier Armas specifically, Luke Brennan, the newer guys. No word on Gregerson and Gigi. They did not practice yesterday. Caleb Wiley was back with the club. What are you guys looking for today? What are you guys looking for with these next two matches in Tampa? 2 matches in a 4-day period. CF Montreal, Tampa Bay Rowdies. What are you looking for in these matches? And we'll go over that here on a Wall Pass Wednesday. Once again, as Wall Passes go, anything on your mind, lay it all out there, and we will discuss what's on your mind this morning. So, television. And this was an interesting thing. Andrew Marchand had his first article up for, yes, no injuries, please. Absolutely true. So you end up with now, yesterday with the news, everybody is like, okay, where do I find it? Where do I go? We do it as a public service every day. What to watch, where to watch it, all the streaming services that we all have that we're plugged into, all these kinds of things. Every single day, we make a public service to sit there and let you know what's on TV and where to watch it. Today, you end up with AFCON semis at noon and 3. Those are on beIN. Nigeria, South Africa, Ivory Coast, DR Congo. Remember, the top 5 teams in AFCON, gone. Didn't even make it to the round of 16. Copa Libertadores at 7:30. beIN in Espanol is your simulcaster. You can get all that action at fanatisfntz.co/soccer down here. Helps out the network, helps out them, helps out us, and it helps you if you're looking for CDO for the fans, TEC, Goal TV, all the beINs, Liga 1 Max, it's all there. Brasileiro, all over the place. You can get it all there. FS2 has a doubleheader Coupe de France. Lyon at 12:30, PSG at 3. Fox Deportes, your simulcaster. Gold TV has the Dutch Cup, Feyenoord and AZ Alkmaar at 3 o'clock. 2 to NA CONCACAF Champions Cup. The hemispheric extravaganza started last night. Real Esteli had a big win over Club America, 2-1 in Nicaragua. It's huge. First time in their history that they'd ever won a match in the CONCACAF tournament. Independiente New England Revolution at 8. Cavalry out of the Canadian Premier League in Orlando City at 10 o'clock. ESPN Plus has FA Cup at 3. Villa and Chelsea. Michael Head might be watching that. German Cup, Saarbrücken, Mönchengladbach at 2:30. Copa del Rey, Atletico Madrid and Athletic Club at 3:20. Fox Soccer Plus has Coupe de France at 2:30. Paramount Plus has Qatar and Iran, the other semifinal going on right now, going up against Jordan, who shocked everybody, knocking off South Korea. Thank God our Jurgen Klinsmann nightmare is over. Jordan gets the winner of Qatar and Iran. That's going on right now. Paramount Plus. And Hibs and Celtic are at 3. VIX has the Forge, Guadalajara, Vancouver Whitecaps, and Tigres doubleheader as a part of the 4 games going on in the Champions Cup. We do that for a reason every single day. Now it appears we may not have as many different places to search for things. ESPN, Fox, Warner Brothers Discovery are teaming up to launch a new standalone streaming app to air their combined content. So everything on ESPN, everything on Fox, Big Ten Network, TNT, TBS, True TV, so basically your entire March college basketball tournament, and so according to our friends at The Athletic, they listed as every essential sports channel outside of CBS, NBC, and Amazon. Q&A with Andrew Marchand. Andrew says, I think it feels impactful, but it is not actually going to be, at least in the near term. The reason it'll probably cost in the neighborhood of $50 a month. You can basically get everything it's offering plus non-sports content for $72 a month with YouTube TV. And so the question is, are they just recreating cable? Marchand says yes and no, starting the great rebundling. Combo deals everywhere, and I know that we all have our own combo deals. Not yet to a point solving the sports fans' problems of simplifying their viewing experience and doing it at an affordable price. Step in that direction, further consolidation is needed. So for right now, it's being referred to as the great rebundling. Linear sports. ESPN, The Deuce, The U, SEC, ACC, News, ABC, Fox, FS1, FS2, Big Ten, TNT, TBS, True, and ESPN Plus. Can also be bundled with Disney Plus, Hulu, and or Max. Bob Iger had a couple of sentences of positivity. David Zaslav had a couple of sentences of positivity. And so the biggest thing is going to be the price point. The RSNs, remember, the regional sports networks, you get that on Prime right now for baseball. Richard Deitch thinks that based on those briefed on the deal, likelihood it'll be priced between where your regional sports networks are right now, 20 to 30, and what you might pay for bundled services, 75 and up. So Deitch is thinking 50 to 55. What will it mean? It's not the full solution for sports fans, according to The Athletic. After a year of discussions among the 3 entities, it gives fans another option to purchase. Without CBS, NBC, and Amazon, among others, not the be-all, end-all. That's what I've got Peacock, I've got Prime, and I've got Paramount Plus. So I guess for me that takes care of those other 3. 1/3 split in ownership among them, ESPN, WBD, and Fox. However, the fees that each company gets are going to be based on what they earn in the cable deals and with services. It's all about the money. Like YouTube TV, according to sources with knowledge of the agreement. That means that ESPN, which gets higher fees, gets a higher percentage. Why do I think that's going to ruffle some feathers? And this is also, according to The Athletic, the leadoff to ESPN's direct-to-consumer offerings. Basically, this is when they're pulling stuff off the table and they're making it available streaming. Still plans on taking the mothership direct-to-consumer on its own by next year. ESPN Plus will be priced in the $25 to $30 monthly range. ESPN's also continuing discussions with NFL, other leagues, and top digital players on potential partnerships. Fox's first move into paid subscription service. Baby step with no downside. Warner Brothers Discovery will continue their plans with Max, where they already have all their content. For now, they will not be bidding together for rights as one entity. According to Marchand, it could be similar to a Hulu-like venture for sports. It could be a solution for some cord cutters, but it's not the be-all, end-all just yet. According to Mike Vorkunov, who's a basketball business reporter, this launches just before the NBA takes their next media rights deal is interesting timing. Two likely bidders, WBD and Disney, still have their exclusivity on linear. So it's not as if this channel that's being created or this mega whatever, this Hydra, the sports Hydra, is going to be pulling that content away. Now you're going to have one-stop shopping for the NBA. I don't watch the NBA, so I'm like, whatever. But as someone who has the Plus, all right, so here's our unofficial survey. What streaming services do you have, if any? I'll see if I can remember ours here at the house. We've got basic cable. So I've got basic cable, but it's not basic. So I have cable TV. Paramount Plus. I have Prime, Hulu, Fanatis, The Plus, Paramount Plus, Peacock. I think that's it. So that's a handful, but what do you guys have? And would this network cause you to do things one way or the other? Would you buy it just to buy it and have it as a part of your arsenal? Would you cut something else to get this? That's another question. So I think I've got like 8 all over the place. I've got 8. So there you go. Does that impact you? Does it affect you? Do you care? Are you going to get it? All those things. With this new lovely streaming service that is going to be alleged. It's going to be alleged. So we'll see. We do have stuff overseas to get into. Like I said, we mentioned what to watch this morning. And since we're kind of out of the transfer, stuff, we do have some stupidity down here, sadly. And it's not really a surprise. So we'll get into, once again, what are your streaming services, and would this Hydra change your viewing habits? Would it change what you buy? Would it change what you don't? We do have some stupidity down here. Emilio, it might. We don't know yet. Emilio's asking if ESPN Plus would go up 3 times. Don't know yet, but I'm sure that they would come up with bundle deals and things like that. So just wait for the specials. Brentford have called for criminal prosecutions. And once again, welcome to Stupidity Down Here. I feel like we should need like some idiotic, like yakety sax music or something. Brentford have called for criminal prosecutions following another instance of racial abuse directed at Ivan Toney on social media. Toney's been subjected to online racist abuse several times over the past few years, with a man handed a 4-month suspended sentence and a 3-year football banning order after an incident in October of 22. And West Brom has come out with a statement for what happened in their match against Birmingham City. suspended the season ticket of a man arrested on suspicion of racially abusing Birmingham City's Juninho Bacuna at the Hawthorns on Saturday. West Brom came out with their statement. The club continues to offer its full support to West Midlands Police. Criminal investigation of this matter remains in contact with Birmingham City to ensure Juninho Bacuna receives the support he requires. The club takes a strong stance against all forms of discrimination. Will do it all it can to ensure anyone found guilty of racism faces the toughest available legal punishment. In addition to a lifetime ban from the Hawthorns, Albion will continue to work with the Football Association, EFL, and all relevant authorities to rid the game of racism. Good for you. Something that you should be doing, and you shouldn't have to talk about. When someone feels like they have to talk about something, it's to make themselves feel just a little bit more important. Don't talk about it. Don't talk. Just do. Just do. That's all you need to do. This is not something where you get to pat yourself on the back about it. It doesn't work that way. This is something that should be going on every single day. Every single day this should be going on. We shouldn't have to sit there, hey, look what we're doing. No, you do it every day. 50-year-old man detained and questioned, suspicion of racially aggravated public order offense. West Midlands Police also appealing to supporters in the stand that they were in who saw or heard the incident to assist with the investigation. Tony Mowbray at the time, who's the head coach at Birmingham City, I think he was abused, really racially abused. It's in the hands of the authorities now. He's a bit upset in the dressing room, a bit disappointed. And that's where we are with that round of stupidity down here. So, legitimately, once again, this is something that we will continue to discuss, because if we stop talking about it, then it gets out of control. And that's why we continue to roll through stupidity down here as a constant, to make sure that police stay on it, to make sure that we're all aware, to make sure that we don't let it happen in other cases, to make sure that we are all on guard and remind everybody else that this is not okay. That this is not okay. It never is okay. It wasn't okay when we were making fun of the kid in elementary school that wore the same outfit 3 days a week. It's not okay now. So West Brom came out with a statement, and we got to keep an eye on it. We always have to be vigilant in these kinds of things. Always have to be vigilant in these kinds of things. So it's not just up to us. It's about everybody that we touch, everybody that we're around, all those kinds of things. Brentford's calling for tougher action for tougher action on social media as well. Continuing what Brentford had to say about it, they said, sadly, it's not the first time Ivan's had to deal with it. A similar incident occurred just 4 weeks ago, leading us to identify an alleged perpetrator whom we reported to the authorities. To date, we have yet to see any action taken against that individual. Sidebar, this is why we have to continue to be vigilant ourselves. Continue. In general, the response from social media platforms to these ongoing issues has been underwhelming. They ain't kidding. Their solutions, such as filters to simply hide the abuse, may safeguard the players, miss the mark entirely, and do not discourage the offenders. Without real consequences for those responsible, the cycle is doomed to repeat. We do have faith that things can change. We appreciate the dialogue that we have with the likes of Meta, but we call for more decisive and urgent action to combat online hate. We call for prompt investigations, and importantly, we call for criminal prosecutions. We will continue to work with the authorities in the Premier League and to support our players as we tackle this awful online abuse. I mean, Brentford ain't lying in any of that. The way things are these days, when you have federal hearings and you have folks that are in charge of or own various social media platforms, turn around and apologize for things that their platform, because of a lack of policing or what have you, did not do to enforce basic standards. They turn around and apologize. It rings hollow. If you do your job from the absolute beginning, then it wouldn't get out of control. We see it online all the time. We report it online, hopefully, as much as we can. But the biggest thing is here in Stupidity Down Here, we've got to continue to be vigilant, whether it's online or in person. As our buddy Alex is always want to say, and as we are here, you want to lift others up. You don't want to knock others down to advance yourself. So that's the key here. Once again, we've got to stay vigilant in all these kinds of things. Yeah, it pisses us off. Yeah, it should never happen. Yeah, it continues to happen, but we need to be the better people. We need to make sure that we all go forward and we all enjoy what's going on and we can all better what's going on around us. I know that may sound a little Pollyanna-ish, but if we don't continue to do our best to make sure that everything around us is on the right path, then it all falls down. So I guess that's the Daily Soapbox. From Stupidity Down Here, that's your Daily Soapbox. A couple of other things you folks were letting us know of your platforms and things. Emilio's got Hulu, the Plus, Paramount Plus, Peacock, and Apple. We've got Apple TV, too. I forgot about Apple, so 9. Michael's got YouTube TV, Peacock, Prime, and Apple. Well, Emilio, it might. It might. Just depends on this new sports hydra. Then we'll see what happens, if it gets out of control or if they have deals or things like that. Won't be going. It may, but you'd be getting, if you're getting the Plus, then you'd be getting Fox and Warner Brothers Discovery as a part of it too. So think bundles. So think bundles as a part of all of this. Matty Cruz on the 1s and 2s, also with another Stupidity Down Here. Aston Villa's Rachel Daly's been given a 3-match ban by the FA for violent conduct. Appeared to swing an elbow at an opponent during their women's Super League game against Bristol City Saturday, not punished by the referee. Incident happened in the 39th minute, tied at 1s at the time, finished up tied at 2. FA statement, her meaning Daly's behavior during the 39th minute wasn't seen by the match officials at the time, caught on camera. FA alleged it constitutes violent conduct. Rachel Daly subsequently admitted this charge, accepted the automatic penalty for violent conduct. She'll miss the quarterfinal against Brighton and Super League matches against Spurs and Liverpool. So Rachel Daly swung an elbow. She got caught on TV. And so she's now going to be sitting for 3 matches. And apparently we were discussing what was going on with Jordan knocking off South Korea. And Yazan Al-Naimat, who scored one of the 2 goals, and he got stuck in the net. He got stuck in the net during his celebration, and the net, you know how the net in and of itself sags from the top down. He got caught in the top sag behind the crossbar and literally had to be pushed up from the sagging net over the edges because he got stuck. But fantastic work by Jordan knocking off South Korea and finally exposing, once again, Jurgen Klinsmann for the manager that he is. He's just one of the luckiest dudes, and I mean, it's not watchable, but they made it very far in that tournament, and thankful that Jordan knocked him off and the other semis going on right now. Okay, half hour left. We've got whatever else is on your mind when it comes to everything on the planet, and we do have some stuff to talk about when it comes to stadia and new ownership and things like that. And apparently, Apparently. Sir Jim Ratcliffe has a plan to turn Old Trafford into New Trafford. Fans aren't all that happy about it. I don't know how many of you have been to Old Trafford, but it looks nice on TV. But when you ain't watching on TV and the undersides, it kind of needs a little work. So James Ducker over at the Telegraph has the ideas. And basically, the subsequent story at the Telegraph, Old Trafford is crumbling, but Sir Jim Ratcliffe is sitting on a pot of gold. He wants to create the Wembley of the North. They should have a world-class venue to rival Wembley at 90,000, could yet seek to lobby the government for funds amid Westminster Abbey's leveling up pledges. Sources close to Ratcliffe told the Telegraph and Ducker he feels the club needs an absolute state-of-the-art, knock-it-out-of-the-park wow stadium, and we feel there's a strong argument for the country having a top-class major venue in the North, a Wembley of the North. So Ratcliffe's billion-dollar deal for 28.9% of United, supposed to gain regulatory approval over the next couple of weeks, comes with a guarantee of an additional £237 million of initial investment for Old Trafford. The infrastructure needs it. Ducker didn't write that. I said that. Understood, Ratcliffe is broadly opposed to the idea of United having to relocate, but believes supporters would be amenable to the idea of a world-leading new stadium on land immediately surrounding Old Trafford, the club's home for the past 114 years. And the spiritual home is important, sources said. And so I'm guessing it's either Ratcliffe or somebody very close to Ratcliffe, by the way. We think the fans would be quite happy to accept a brand new stadium if we stay where we are. Problem is, currently, the land that is owned by Manchester United, they're going to have to purchase more because land that they currently own, the only place that you could fit a stadium onto it is if you literally straddled the tributary that's up against Old Trafford as it is. You'd have to buy west toward the rail lines to get any kind of space. If you're gonna build something, you're gonna have to stay on that side of the tracks, and you're gonna have to buy more room because the stuff that you have currently right now, that ain't gonna do it. So you got to keep an eye on all that. Redevelopment and expansion of the current stadium, which has been cited internally as an 8-year project, remains one of the options on the table. Said it's around 25% of the space inside Old Trafford currently lies empty or wasted. Insiders raised concerns about the prospect of getting into a situation where the club are throwing good money after bad if they attempt to expand the south stand and redevelop the other sides. Ultimately, the source said, you've still got a 1910 building, meaning a building that was constructed in 1910. Chris Lee from Populous, who is apparently overseeing the project, told the Telegraph last month the new build may well turn out to be the most cost-effective solution. The building is reaching the end of its natural life. The cabling, the electricity supplies, everything is nearing its sell-by date. The new stadium, if you buy some of the area off to Stadium West, you're going to have to take out some of the parking, no surprise, but you're also going to have to take out some of the rail yard that's attached to it because you can't build over the Bridgewater Canal. You're stuck. Literally, you have to build in between the canal and the rail line. That's a finite amount of space. You got to build out. You can't build over. Estimated expanding the current capacity of 74 could cost at least £800 million, potentially more, while a new ground could be in the region of $1.5 billion to $2 billion. Ratcliffe and Ineos have already begun dialogue with Andy Burnham, the mayor of Greater Manchester, council leaders, and other civic officials over the future of Old Trafford and trying to explore other financial options. Pioneering new stadium potential for surrounding sport. Remember, live, work, play. That could work to boost the economy. United would have to obviously bring a lot of money to the table to fund the project. If they expanded the stadium, moved it out toward the railway, you could do that with modern technology to extend the stadium and keep everything the way that it is. Total capacity of 73,800 right now. So you could do that. And then Tom Morgan, the sports correspondent, asked, why would the government give United public money? With an election this year, battleground for government and opposition, competing visions of the promised rejuvenation for the North. So this could be a part of that. Rejuvenation for the North. The National Infrastructure Commission has told ministers already this year that the UK must address its persistent slow economic growth and entrenched regional inequalities, end quote. Decided on allocations for the third and final round of the £4.8 billion Levelling Up Fund, first announced in October 2021. Freedom of Information responses recently showed the majority of councils are yet to spend previous funds received. And there could be funds also left over from the scrapping of a rail line. $36 billion there. Have any other clubs targeted leveling up funds? Yes, but only at the other end of the pyramid, meaning the football pyramid. Proposal to buy Southend's Roots Hall. State support for Barry's return to Gig Lane this season after they were expelled in 2019. $1.3 million made available, $450,000 from the Barry Council, and the rest from the Leveling Up Fund. So opportunities are there. You got to keep an eye on them. Did you see that Thiago Silva's wife is mad? Boy, is she mad. After the 4-2 loss to Wolves, Thiago Silva's wife, Belle, on social media, looked like she was saying that Mauricio Pochettino should be sacked. She's backed off of it. She's apologized for an outburst. Follows talks between Pochettino and Thiago Silva, where Bell said, it's time to change. If you wait any longer, it will be too late. Earlier today, on the 280-character app, quote, I'm sorry that my personal outburst as a passionate Chelsea fan has caused such an impact. I'm passionate about the team. I thrive on victories, and I'm saddened by defeats. We all want the same thing, a winning team. Come on, Chelsea. So you have players' wives now apologizing for outbursts about folks getting sacked and the desires therein. Pochettino said Thiago had come to speak to him on Tuesday morning, asked publicly about it. It's a private thing to keep inside, as it should be. Did not address it publicly. He says, I'm not going to talk about what we talked about. Mary Earps, by the way, in an interview with Tom Morgan, once again in dealing with stupidity down here, and we do have quotes from Joseph Martinez coming up in just a bit. Mary Earps believed attention-seeking criticism of women's football reflects sexist views shared by people across the country. Rallying behind her claim that the sport is routinely used to dealing with systemic misogyny, Earps said the biggest disappointment is society-wide prejudice, and she mentioned idiot Joey Barton. And directly addressed comments made by those such as Barton, who said women should not be talking with any kind of authority about men's football. In a new interview, Earp says further sexist reaction to the outgoing Chelsea manager's comments. Emma Hayes effectively proved her point. Sport is a vehicle for change, but also a representation of society, Earp says. Women's Health UK coming out in March. The comments on that video of Emma speaking at the presser are really telling. This isn't just what one person thinks. This is what people across the country think, probably in the world, and that's the biggest disappointment to me. Earp said that it can be hard to give a calm response when asked about misogyny in football, but added she is unsure an aggressive response actually helps our cause. That's the irony of the whole situation. And I think anyone who's a woman knows that. It's not just football. I don't think are many women in the world that have not experienced sexism and misogyny of some kind. And we've mentioned Joey Barton and his stupidity as a public service. Once again, you expose stupidity for what it is, more people get to learn about it. Do I like what Joey Barton has to say? No, but I think that it has its place because if we ignore it, it continues. Emma Hayes back in January said, I don't expect any individual personality to understand their privilege. Nonetheless, you only have to see scores of women across the internet or in the business, whether that's coaches, presenters, players, we're routinely used to dealing with systemic misogyny, bullying, and behavior that's been pretty normal for a large part of the football public. And on a really cool note, it's behind a pay window, sadly, but our Jessica Charman, who has busted her ass, has an article on her, a profile piece in the Charlotte Observer. It's out today. And if I can find a way to read it, I'll read it. What Charlotte needs to do, what the Observer needs to do, is pull it from out from behind the damn paywall. Because of what an article like this can do to anyone. Anyone in the business. Anyone. And we have been, and this means I probably need to grab Jess and have her on the show the first chance we get. But when you see someone like Jess, who grew up playing the game, and has turned that into an amazing career where she is calling games all over the place. Jason's calling games all over the place. And how many people Jess gets to touch with her knowledge in games. And it's not just in Major League Soccer. And that's kind of like how we are here. And I mean that in the sense of you on the Twitch pitch and those of us here and those of us listening. Jess doesn't just do it in Major League Soccer. She's calling games in the UPSL with Jason. Jason's calling games in the UPSL. They're calling Division II games down at Clayton State. Jess is calling games at the Peach Belt. Hell, Jess was at the Peach Belt Conference doing roundtable discussions recently. One of the premier Division II conferences in the country. And Jess is doing Major League Soccer. She's doing Division I soccer. She's doing Division II soccer, men's and women's. She's doing high school games. She's doing Summer League, UPSL, NPSL, Peachtree, MOBA, you name it. And it's folks like Jess and Jason. And Michael, you're absolutely correct. Not like there isn't enough time in the day, but Jess is also coaching down at she's coaching south of Atlanta. She's coaching in high school. She's coaching GK Union. So she's on the air and she's doing, literally she is one of the busiest women in show business. She's doing drops for Charlotte television. She's on this show talking about stuff when we can grab her. Literally with Jess these days and with Jason these days, it's like trying to grab a comet by the tail or trying to grab rain between your fingertips, trying to grab these two. But when you have someone like Jess, and like I said, if the Charlotte Observer is worth their salt, they'll pull this from outside the paywall because of the good that this article can do across the board. I would petition the Charlotte Observer to take this from outside the paywall just because of the content and how important it is for folks to understand what folks like Jason and Jess go through on a daily basis, what they've been through in their careers to get to where they are. So, Charlotte Observer, get your head screwed on straight. Pull this from outside the paywall. It's an article about Jess. And our friend Jessica Charman, we are blessed to know her, and we are blessed to see the ride that she is on. Title of the article, No Distance Too Far, Charlotte FC's radio voice turns life's passion into a career. And she and a bunch of other folks that we know are busting their ass to make sure everybody knows about what's going on in the sport, and it's not just on the pro level. Every level is important to someone. And we always try to treat everyone equally. We've always said rising tide lifts all boats here. That's why when we do the 1v1s with the NPSL franchises that are coming online, when we do the features with Georgia Impact players who are playing in Costa Rica, when we're catching up with, later today, we're catching up with Ella Stevens up at Gotham and talking about her learning from her time in Gwinnett County as a high school star. Now she's with Gotham with the super team there, the Eastern super team in the NWSL. That's why we like to do all of these interviews from all these different places and all these different levels, because it's all important to someone and it's all important to the growth of the game. And when you have Jason and Jess calling on average one match every 3 days, I think Jason called 125 matches last year. When you have people that are as vital to the game as Jason and Jess are, they need to be shared. Don't hide them behind a paywall, Charlotte Observer. Don't hide this article behind a paywall. Having people like this integral to the game is vital. To share it, to grow it, to expose it for what it can be to someone who may not know. I mean, someone literally could be spurred on by reading something about Jason or about Jess, and they could dive into this full bore. I mean, I don't think that, and I know that I would probably, if to say that Jason and Jess are role models, it might be an understatement. And I know that they, knowing them as modest as they are, they would not say that they are role models, but I think they are. And they take their role seriously about the growth of the game. They take their role seriously about the growth of the game. They want to bring everyone along. And when you have folks like Jason and Jess, listen to them. You'll learn more by the end of the time that you have listened to them than when you started your conversation. So, I mean, Jess has an article in the Charlotte Observer. I say we petition to get it out from behind the paywall just because of the good it can do. So maybe that's our X chase today. The 280 character app chase. Get this out from behind the paywall, Charlotte Observer. Once again, reminder, Atlanta and CF Montreal, 4 o'clock, ATLUTD.com, and all the social media channels available to it. Jason will have the call down at Al Lang Stadium. 2 matches in 4 days, and I know that Michael Head has the main thought, please nobody get hurt. No one pull a Sergi Busquets like they did against Vissel Kobe. Please, nobody do that. But yeah, Charlotte Observer, pull this out from behind a paywall. Do a public service. Do folks a solid. News and notes here in the final 10 minutes before we go, and we'll bring in Maddie one more time. Yeonmin Son looks like he's due to return to Spurs on Thursday after South Korea's exit in the Asian Cup. Missed the last 5 matches, all comps. Top scorer, 12 goals, 5 assists. Looks like he's going to be in line for the match against Brighton on Saturday. And David Moyes, his future remains uncertain at West Ham. They've beaten Manchester United and Arsenal in December, but now they're winless in 6. It is so hot and cold, it is not even funny. It's like, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. We like David Moyes. No, we don't. We really do. No, we don't. So you got that. And keep an eye on all that stuff. So, yes, no, of course. No, maybe not. So we'll see. But, yeah, so you got all that stuff going on. Let's see. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Let's go there. See if there's anything else we missed. Remember, there are a couple of windows that are still open when it comes to player transfers and discussions. So you'll hear some things, Turkish transfers, things like that. Keep an eye. Enzo Fernandez considering leaving Chelsea after a year after joining the club for €121 million on an 8.5-year deal. Remember, 8.5-year deal and a transfer fee. It's about controlling the asset. And you can also, until this past year, with deals like Enzo Fernandez and Mykhailo Mudryk, what you could do is divide up the fee into that window. So if you paid an incredibly expensive fee, you could divide it up into in Enzo's case and in Mudryk's case, 8 separate parts where it doesn't affect your bottom line as much. Chelsea players have complained that coaching by Mauricio Pochettino and his staff on tactical elements is limited, while new arrivals have expressed regret over their long-term contracts. It's from our friends at The Athletic. Chelsea apparently is going to wait until the end of the season to assess Pochettino's future as manager. Liverpool made contact with Bayer Leverkusen's Xabi Alonso following Jurgen Klopp. That's from our friends at Foot Mercato. Manchester United want to focus on data and youth in their summer recruitment with Crystal Palace's Michael Olise, who might be out for 2 months. Everton's Jared Branthwaite targets. Erik ten Hag will have reduced influence. Dell had mentioned this earlier. Reduced influence over the club's transfer strategy from this summer. And that had been anticipated with Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe and David Branthwaite being a part of the discussion. Currently, Ten Hag has a veto on transfer targets and has largely looked to his homeland to sign players. Lisandro Martinez, who might be out for a while, Christian Eriksen, who might be heading to Turkey, Andre Onana and Antony had all played for Ten Hag before joining the club. Mason Mount, Malacia, Weghorst, and Amrabat had all played in Holland. Ineos want to keep Ten Hag in place, according to our friends at Metro, before making a decision on his future in the summer. But in any case, Ratcliffe and company plan on reducing the Dutchman's influence over transfers. They, with the help of Omar Barada and a new sporting director, will turn to the data-driven model. And they say they've identified Branthwaite and Olise as those first two, though Olise signed a new Palace deal last summer. It's believed to include a release clause of around £65 million. That might come down, especially with the injury report that came out the other day. Manchester City have not yet signed Savio. We got into the Savio discussion yesterday about Troy, Girona, and City Football Group. Not yet signed the 19-year-old, currently on loan to Girona from Troy, but talks have taken place, hopeful of agreeing the deal. We talked about the whole fair market value evidence thing. We got to keep an eye on that. PSG considering a move for Marcus Rashford if they sell Kylian Mbappe this summer. AC Milan remain interested in Fulham's Tosin Adarabioyo. Free to open talks with overseas clubs regarding a summer free transfer as he entered the last 6 months of his deal. A number of Premier League clubs are interested in Barca's 17-year-old defender Pau Cubarsí, who has a €10 million release clause in the contract. Crystal Palace, for the 98th day in a row, are considering the future of Roy Hodgson as manager. Clubs are struggling to find a potential replacement. I thought it was going to be Steve Cooper, but apparently they're now struggling. Manchester United's Mason Greenwood on loan at Getafe is on Atletico Madrid's short list of forwards, and they'll consider signing this summer. United are targeting players who are entering the final year of contracts. Could look at players like Bayern's Joshua Kimmich, Lille's Jonathan David, Nice's Kefren Turam. Liverpool are monitoring also Chiesa at Juve. Erling Haaland has no plans to leave Manchester City, according to Football Insider, amid speculation he could join Real Madrid. Arsenal remain in contract talks with Amaria Cozier-Duberry, 18-year-old winger. Newcastle, Ajax, Dortmund, Wolves, Anderlecht all interested. That's from Fabrizio Romano. Manchester United tracking Copenhagen and Sweden U21 winger Roni Bargi. That's from the three-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. United are unlikely to offer Portugal midfielder Bruno Fernandes a significant pay rise despite interest from Saudi Arabia. So that is that is your current gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Once again, remember, a couple of windows are still open, Turkey specifically. So if you see stuff like what we were talking about with Christian Eriksen possibly moving to Turkey, you keep an eye on that, and we'll see. Legitimately, we'll see what happens there. Shocking no one. Aberdeen lost their first match with Neil Warnock as caretaker manager for the rest of the year, and he was his standard 75-year-old cantankerous self on the touchline. But Rangers 1-2-1. Todd Cantwell with the winner for the opening night spoiling of Neil Warnock. Color me surprised. Before we move into the final words here on the day, and thanks to everybody for hanging out with us on a Wall Pass Wednesday. Joseph addressed the Canadian press today. He says the knee is good, says it has been for 2 years. He's eyeing the Copa America and wants to win the Canadian Cup with Montreal on his personality. Maybe I get too emotional. That's my problem. I don't like to lose. Canadian press were impressed with Joseph's French accent. He says, I'm good with languages. Montreal reminds him of Switzerland, where he played with young boys in FC Thun. The cold is not good, but I'm okay with that. Being close to his son, a big reason to stay in Major League Soccer. And on Messi and Friends, I'm blessed to have the opportunity to play with one of the most important players in history. Every time we go to the locker room, I was so impressed because he won everything and he's still hungry to conquer. So I learned. So Joseph learned from Messi and Friends while he was there. Apparently, Nani is going to be playing in the TST in TST 2024. So keep an eye on that as well. But all right, a couple minutes to go. We'll bring in Maddie one more time to kind of put a bow on things, on any other thoughts that she has during the day. Maddie, what's on your mind before we go? I might have stunned her. I think I did. I think I stunned Maddie.
I was in my own little world for a second. I was looking at an email I just got sent, and I was like rereading it, like really like harshly, and I did not even hear what you said. So I completely apologize.
No, just your last thoughts before we go. FC Cincinnati's acquired midfielder Pavel Bucha from Victoria Pilsen, by the way.
Ooh.
Over 200 professional appearances. FC Cincinnati is bringing in all kinds of depth. So Manchester United fans have also warned Sir Jim Ratcliffe they don't want soulless stadiums like Arsenal and Spurs, as we talked about. New Trafford happening, probably, possibly, maybe, who knows. And PSG, looks like on the women's side, they're planning a swoop for Chloe Kelly to make her the highest paid women's player in Europe. So,
wow, that's awesome.
All right, so what else is on your mind before we go?
Well, first of all, I don't know if Manchester United should be looking at a stadium right now, since their team's kind of not doing.
It's an old barn. They need a new barn. They need a new barn.
They do need a new barn. I just think that's something that should be talked about maybe after the season is done. Maybe. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm not a business person. I don't know how this all works.
They need it. They really need it.
But yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool stuff. Definitely, if y'all get the chance, I definitely think that Jess's article needs to be out of that paywall. I know that at least from the couple times I've met Jess, it has been so amazing to see, especially someone who wants to do a lot like what Jess is doing in MLS soccer, to see a woman have the platform that she has and how she has built it is really inspiring for me, for someone who wants to do this. And you know how hard it can be for women to do that, especially in this field. And it's really inspiring. In the conversations I've got to have with her, she is the best person ever. And I'm so happy that I got to know her. And yeah, it's the same thing with Jason too. I'm excited that I'm excited to know both of them. They're both great people, and everyone is awesome. And I'm just happy to be here.
And it's great to have you in charge of the ones and twos and keeping me honest on a daily basis, reminding me of things that I always seem to forget when it comes to chasing stories. You mentioned Dimitar Berbatov, according to our friends at DAZN, says that it could be Pochettino could be sacked if he doesn't beat Aston Villa. So don't know about that, but we'll see if Berbatov is closer to being correct or if the papers and the gossip, rumor, and innuendo are closer to being correct as well. Once again, remember later today, Ella Stevens from Gotham. She'll be on for a 1v1. That'll be up on the network a little later on today. Back at it again tomorrow. Nico Moreno joining us at 10:30. And we're going to be recording an interview with Huntsville City FC head coach Jack Collison on Thursday afternoon. And it'll be good to catch up with Jack, and we'll replay that on Friday morning before we catch up with our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring at 9:30 and get everything squared away for the remainder of the weekend. Reminder for Atlanta United and CF Montreal, 4 o'clock this afternoon, ATLUTD.com. Jason will have the call down at Al Lang Stadium, one of the cool venues and the historic venues when it comes to sports here in the Southeast. So last night was fun. We get to do it again with Roswell River Ridge on Friday. So the research starts in earnest for that coming up in short order. And so for Maddie, for all of you guys on the Twitch pitch that were great with your comments today as we danced our way through everything going on the planet, and for everybody that's always a part of SDH. Back at you again tomorrow morning, 9:05. Nico Moreno joining us for Thursdays with Nico. And so since it's the end of the show, that means that I get to do this once again, back at it in a little less than 22 hours. Mucha plot to play it safe. We'll be back at it again tomorrow morning.